the 60s are over and it's okay to like Doris Day again.
You're going to start me with my romance with June Allison from my childhood. No, I think Doris Day is quite accomplished. As you mentioned, Love Me or Leave Me is definitely a buried treasure. Sinatra's performance in this film is something not to be overlooked. He is superb here, and people talk about his other films that he's got acclaim for. This, I think, is one of his very finest performances as well. So I would recommend this film, too.
One piece of trivia I didn't realize consciously until I looked at this movie again. You know who sings Young at Heart? It's Sinatra, not Day. And it's not in the movie, it's in the title. Tricky. Coming up next, a thriller about killer sisters and the story of a sometimes happy wanderer who looks tough but may be a saint.
Smack?
Heroin.
No, Jack.
After selling heroin, you're out on your ass.
Videos we think you might enjoy renting. My next choice is St. Jack, a 1979 movie by Peter Bogdanovich that starred Ben Gazzara, a good actor who hasn't made that many good movies, in one of the best performances of his career. He plays Jack Flowers, an American in Singapore who's a jack of all trades, bootlegging, smuggling, anything to make a buck. The film is set at the time of the Vietnam War, and one of Jack Flowers' occupations is making money off of his fellow Americans who are visiting Singapore for R&R.
There's a couple of bigwigs coming through town tomorrow. Yeah? So? Well, one of them swings the other way. Find me something, will you?
The movie has a great supporting performance by Denholm Elliott, nominated for an Academy Award for A Room with a View. He's great in this movie as a visiting British accountant that Jack befriends and introduces to the city's nightlife.
Take care now.
No, you're a dunce, aren't you?
Hard to say what anyone is.
Well, I only mentioned it because, personally speaking, I could never bring myself to pay.
Million people make love for so many crazy reasons. Why shouldn't money be one of them? Huh?
Elliott and Gazzara are wonderful in this movie, but show us the way that Bogdanovich evokes the whole world of Singapore. It's not often you find a movie where the story seems to grow out of the location instead of just being laid right on top of it, the city used as backdrop. St. Jack is a movie with a strong sense of time and place and some really unforgettable performances, and possibly Ben Gazzara's best movie, unless that would be Killing of a Chinese Bookie, a very, very little-known film by John Cassavetes.
And I'm going to add a couple other Ben Gazzara films because, I mean, one of the great things about doing a buried treasure show like this is that you just recall someone's career. Anatomy of a Murder, Ben Gazzara early in his career, and also my favorite John Cassavetes film that he was ever in, and that is Husbands. I think he's a very fine actor, and I think that the range that he is given in this role, I mean, the whole title, St. Jack, and yet he's a crumb, I mean, it sums it all up, is wonderful. This is one, I agree, rent it immediately.
Yeah, because, you know, he's a famous actor, but basically for stage and for television, and this shows you really what we lost in all the great movies that he didn't make, in a way.
He can do it. Next movie. Everyone's talking about the great job Brian De Palma did directing The Untouchables this year. I like just as much a little thriller he made 14 years ago called Sisters, which was about a couple of sisters. Margot Kidder plays one, and Jennifer Salt plays the reporter who in this split-screen scene sees one of the sisters commit a murder.
Hello? I want to report an emergency, a murder.
That's a beautiful camera shot. As frightening as anything in the picture is when Jennifer Salt tracks the sister to a mental hospital where a crazed doctor drugs her. Then he shows her the truth about Margot Kidder.
You want to know all our secrets? Fine. We will share them with you. Watch.
Plenty of surprises in this film. A touch of Hitchcock, certainly. The voyeurism of Rear Window is all through this picture, with lots of scenes of us looking at characters through window. And the whole bit about the innocent person wrongly accused, which was a major theme in Hitchcock's films. The tension in this film is constant. The gory scenes, and they do get a little gory, are not repellent at all because they are so well made and not heavy-handed. In many ways, Sisters is my favorite Brian De Palma film, because it was on a smaller budget than The Untouchables. It's pure movie making. I loved it a lot.
That it is, and you could actually go into a video store and pick almost anything by Brian De Palma and have a good time because he is theatrical and because he is out in front with wanting to touch you and wanting to involve you and wanting to shock you and surprise you. He's criticized sometimes for ripping off Hitchcock. He doesn't really rip him off. He doesn't steal anything that Hitchcock. What he does is he takes a starting off point of some of the observations Hitchcock made about elementary things like our fear of being accused of a crime that we didn't commit, and then he goes from there. This is a good movie.
Oh, and I love there's a whole thing involving a birthday cake in this movie. It's very bloody. It's a new level of frosting on the cake. Let's put it that way.
I think you've really painted an attractive picture for us. When we come back, 2 movies about doomed and erotic love affairs.
We're both pretty screwed up. But I really think he's in more trouble than I am.
Continuing our choices of buried treasures in the back shelf of your video store, one of my favorite recent overlooked movies is Mike Newell's Dance with a Stranger, based on the true story of the last woman ever hanged in England. She kills her lover, some people thought out of self-defense, because he does abuse her and degrade her.
Have you seen the state of this record? What? This record I gave you, look at it! Stretched to hell!
That's Miranda Richardson and Rupert Everett in 2 terrific performances. Now, his actions alone may not justify murder. Maybe nothing does, but this woman is obviously trapped in a very bad situation, and we get the feeling there's no way out, especially in this scene where she follows her lover to an upper-class hangout.
You cowardly, treacherous, if you didn't want to have anything to do with me, I wish you'd had the nerve to say it to my face.
If this subject seems depressing, well, this isn't the sound of music, but it may be the sound of some relationships. And the film sensitizes us to that and to the danger of dancing in a relationship with someone who is a stranger. And it leaves us to ponder why some people just can't seem to walk out the door away from trouble. In that way, it almost reminded me, Roger, of that film Sid and Nancy. This is a superb film. Not a downer.
It's a great film, and Miranda Richardson should have been nominated for an Academy Award for it, and would have been nominated probably if it hadn't been a British film and if it had made more money. Great performances, and these 2 people are drawn toward each other, and I think even drawn toward their final fate. They're both asking for it, whatever happens to them, because there's something inside of them that compels them to move in that direction.
And there's where that Sid and Nancy comparison comes in again. A nice companion piece if you want to rent 2 films about...
Or my next buried treasure is also a companion piece for both of those films. It's called Love Streams. It's a movie by John Cassavetes. It was made in 1984, and of all of Cassavetes' films, and this man has made so many wonderful, personal, intimate films, this one may be the most typical of his approach. The idea of a group of talkative, oddball, neurotic people living their lives in front of a camera and hardly even seeming to know that the camera is there. The movie stars Cassavetes as an alcoholic writer who lives in the Hollywood Hills and plays host to a steady stream of hookers. He stays awake for days at a time because he's afraid to miss one single unhappy moment. Jenna Rollins plays his sister, a woman who is going mad in the middle of her own busted-up marriage. She needs to be a mother so much that she brings home half of the animals from a pet store.
Are you good boys? Come on, come on. Let's go see Robin. Oh. I know this looks crazy, but I just got carried away. I mean, I couldn't resist these. These are miniature horses. Aren't they small? I was going to only take one, but then I figured they'd get lonely.
Love Streams is a movie about madness, but it doesn't just observe its mad people as freaks or curiosities. It's really a movie about the human need for companionship, for parenthood, for the feeling that you have some kind of a function and use in life. And those characters feel those needs so desperately that maybe that's what's driven them mad in the first place. Now, I make this movie sound like a downer, but oddly enough, there's so much life in this film, even if it is sad life, that the movie is more exhilarating than depressing. Love Streams by John Cassavetes.
I don't think it's as great as you think. I mentioned Husbands as one of my favorites, but there are elements in here that are terrific. I think he is very tight on himself and controls himself better than he controls Jenna Rollins. I think some of the stuff with the animals maybe draws the point too obviously. It's humorous, but I think it's drawn out a little bit much.
Yeah,
I think if he had focused in a little tighter on her, it's his wife, I think he lets her go a little too far.
I don't really think it's supposed to be humorous. I think it's really pretty sad when she goes to that place and gets the parrot and everything and so forth.
Well,
she doesn't want any of these animals
to
to have anything bad happen to them because she just so desperately needs to take care of something, even if she has to go to the pet store and buy every animal so that she has some responsibilities.
Okay, well, I didn't believe that, but I did believe his performance in the film very, very much. Now to recap our buried treasures, my recommendations are the comedy A New Leaf with Elaine May and Walter Matthau. They're wonderful. Southern Comfort, Action in the Bayou. Also, Sisters, the great Brian De Palma thriller. Be warned, it is gory, but it's good. And finally, Dance with a Stranger, the story of a woman's angry cry for help that turns into a brutal attack.
Okay, and now let's look at my buried treasures. I picked One Trick Pony with Paul Simon as a has-been folk singer, Young at Heart with a wonderful performance by Doris Day, and Frank Sinatra's good too, yeah. St. Jack with Ben Gazzara roaming the Singapore underworld, and John Cassavetes' heartbreaking drama, Love Streams. Now, all of these movies may or may not be available in your local video store, but they all are available on video, and as a matter of fact, all of them were in my local video store. And that just almost says nothing, I suppose, except that you should live next to my local video store.
Well, that's one thing it says, but, you know, the point of doing this show is to encourage people to go to the video store and say, hey, buddy, I heard about this movie. I want it in my store. I don't want you just to have Top Gun and Ghostbusters and everything else. Give me some variety in my store. And this is what should be in your store.
Gene Siskel, the consumer's advocate. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with reviews of 4 new movies, including RoboCop, starring Peter Weller and Nancy Allen in a futuristic cop story, and The Squeeze, a comedy starring Michael Keaton and Ray Dawn Chong. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.